Hello and welcome everyone, my name's Captain Frost and this is gonna be our build rundown of Lightning Arrow Deadeye that uses Crystallized Omniscience as one of its main items that completely rewrites how you are building the character, how you are getting the stats, how you are getting the elemental resistances. So Lightning Arrow is currently one of the most powerful and the most fast clear speed skills in the game, and it's very efficient. It's very good for your farming T16s with different things like Delirium and Legions and stuff like that. So yeah, it is quite popular. It's quite strong, especially with Vengeance Cascade talent that you can get through the anointing with projectiles returning to you after they've used all their piercing and forking and chaining mechanics. So yeah, this is quite a strong and popular build currently, and especially with Omniscience. Even though it's quite expensive, it's still a reasonably priced item for what it gives. So yeah, I guess now let's go for the pop of the build. Yeah, let's see here. What do we have in terms of stats? What do we have in terms of talent tree, then skills, items, maybe some cheap alternatives that you can get for yourself in this build. Yes, let's start with our damage. So you can see that even with Pop's DPS, it's just regular Lightning Arrow. It's not the Vol version that is very good for single target. So with our basic Lightning Arrow, that is our clearing skill, we have something around 5 million DPS. We do have some defenses. There are not much of them. Of course, it's 24k effective hit pool, some evasion, almost quite low amounts of armor, just resistances, spell suppression, just a regular stuff for the ranger, for the Deadeye. But what we do have instead of that is we have a ton of damage. We have great AoE coverage, which means that no enemies are gonna be unattended by our lightning arrows, and our lightning arrows deal effectively like twice damage because of the Vengeance Cascade and because they are coming back to us. So this DPS should be even amplified even more for that. So yeah, this is our build, and just to emphasize what is the Crystallized Omniscience, and by the way, this character uses Headhunter, but it's not required to do. It's just one of the best options that you can get for yourself in order to even more ramp up and speed up your mapping process. So yeah, here we have our Crystallized Omniscience. It gives us some attributes, allocates Vengeance Cascade, of course, with our oils, and the item itself, what it does, modifiers to attributes instead apply to Omniscience. We have +1 to all elemental resistances per 15 Omniscience, penetrate 1% of elemental resistances per 15 Omniscience, and attribute requirements can be satisfied by 22% of Omniscience. Which means that if you were to look at any of your active skills, you will see here that you using Lightning Arrow requires you 704 Omniscience instead of your regular stats. The same goes with the items. So for example, on boots we see here it's 281 Omniscience, and everything else works just like that. So yeah, if you have any requirements of stats, it will gonna require you to have some Omniscience, which means, and how do you acquire Omniscience? You acquire it through all the stat increases that are not your generic stats that you're getting on your character by default, which means that stats that we can see here on the ring, +63 to strength, dexterity, intelligence, that's all, that it all goes to Omniscience. And by the way, as far as I know, hybrid stat rolls are not really counting twice. So if you have one mod that gives you +25 to intelligence and strength, it's still gonna be like 21 to Omniscience. And when you have two different mods, it's gonna be like we see here, +68 to dexterity is gonna be 68 Omniscience, 63 to intelligence is gonna be 63 Omniscience. So this is how it works, and with all the percentage increases to your stats as well, you can ramp up your Omniscience effectively, which means that you probably want to have those things, especially if you are quite low on Omniscience and you don't have enough. So we see here that we have 1000 of it, and with all the penetration that Omniscience gives us, with all the elemental resistance that it gives us, we don't really need to find too much of those on our gear or on our I don't know, like items and jewels and skills. Yeah, but it's still some of it is still here, but it all depends, and Omniscience definitely helps you with getting those stats. So character building will be quite different with it. Before you can acquire it, it's your lightning arrow probably will be just a regular character that takes all the resistance. It doesn't need to have so much just raw stats as strength, intelligence, and dexterity. So yeah, before you have Omniscience, you're just building it like a regular character, and after you're getting it, you definitely need to quite heavily invest into stats, into raw stats on or like percentage stats on your gear. Otherwise, you wouldn't have enough. It wouldn't be just like reasonable to even use it. Yeah, so that's with one of our core things that are going on here, and let's go for the talent tree itself probably first. Yeah, let's see what we are getting here. What's good, what's bad for us. So first of all, we're gonna go for the regular talent points. Then we're gonna go for the jewels and how are we getting some of our talents through the jewels as well. So we're taking a bunch of stuff that increase our projectile damage, our life, our attack speed, movement speed, chance to suppress spell damage, which is definitely a valuable defensive mechanic for us. We're definitely taking all the mana reservation efficiency that we possibly can get. We're taking additional maximum frenzy charges. We're getting all the jewel slots that we just can. We're taking all the crit strike and crit multiplier modifiers for bows, or just generic that are good for their value of the talents themselves. We're taking some elemental damage, increases to elemental damage again, more crit, more health, more life, some stats as well. As we can see, it's plus 40 to dexterity and percentage increase to dexterity, which converts to Omniscience. You don't really need these things before you have Crystallized Omniscience itself. Yeah, so then again, more projectile damage, more damage with bows, attack speed with bows, some additional accuracy, some crit, and yeah, +1 to maximum power charges. Here we will go a bit later. Some life leech, some just flat life and mana gain per enemy hit. More health, more just like crit stuff and life. So yeah, that's what your regular talents are gonna be about. Then with our jewels, every jewel is quite special in here. So first of them all is Thread of Hope. It gives you some minus to to all elemental resistances that you can cover with your gear or with your Omniscience, and you need only affects passive in a large ring modifier here, and passives in radius can be allocated without being connected to your tree. So as you can see here, this big circle here is where you can allocate any talent points without need to get to them with other talent points. And we're taking Aspect of Eagle, we're taking one with Nature, we're taking Master Fletcher and multi-shot here just for free. So it's 2 additional projectiles, your attacks firing 2 additional projectiles with Master Fletcher, and with multi-shot without this low attack speed small nodes. Then we're taking Aspect of Eagle that just gives us damage and attack speed without need to take this small node. Then one with Nature for some resistances, crit and ally damage. Yeah, and that's mostly it. You can as well take Primeval Force as well without need to spend your talent points on these 3 this 3, but that's all up to you if you want to do that or if you don't want to do that. You too can get piercing shots as well if you want more coverage, but we already have some chain going on. If it's not enough for you, then you can take that. That's all up to you. So that was our first jewel slot. The second one is obviously going to be Watcher's Eye, and this Watcher's Eye is it gives us critical strike multiplier while we're affected by precision that we're using, and we're using Wrath as our additional flat damage, flat lightning damage to our attacks, and we have additional physical converted to lightning damage while affected by Wrath. It all depends on your bow, with how much do you have fizz damage over there. It's just gonna be a pretty pleasable bonus for you to have some additional flat damage going on there to your attacks. Then our third unique jewel is going to be Lionized Fall, which converts all melee damage talent nodes into bow ones. So that means all the dagger, all the claws, and here we have 2 very big juicy clusters with crit strike, chance, and multiplier for daggers that converts to bows. And here we have attack speed and regular damage for claws that increases instead our bow damage as well. And with dagger mastery we have crit strikes, have cooling strikes, and we have very, very big crit chance, which means that we will have cooling strike just by default. That's very that's very good for us. It's kind of quality of life, definitely. Then we're using 1 large cluster jewel that is damage with bows oriented, as small as less small passives as you possibly can get, because they're not really good. What we are seeking here is this big juicy talents, just like Martial Prowess and Feed the Fury. We see that we're getting more damage, attack speed here, some accuracy, attack speed, and damage. Yeah, just all the regular big beefy talent points. And then we're getting as well 2 free jewel slots. We see here some attributes, again damage and attack speed, and just crit strike and crit multi on the other one. So yeah, that's gonna be your cluster and unique jewels, and yeah, that's gonna be it with it here. So with our Ascendancy, we're definitely taking Far Shot. You can take not far shot and go for Focal Point instead. It all depends on what are your priorities. So Focal Shot will definitely increase your single target damage and will give you a bit of defensives, because enemies that are near your market targets are gonna deal less damage. With Far Shot, you're just increasing your damage for I guess more for AoE, and if there are far away targets, you're gonna just one-shot them even easier with it. Then we're taking Ricochet, that gives us +1 chain and ability for our projectiles to chain out of the terrain. And after that chain, and after all the piercing, forking, chaining mechanics, all the projectiles are gonna come back to us with Vengeant Cascade, so it doesn't interrupt Vengeant Cascade at all. Then we're taking Endless Munitions, of course, which gives us 2 additional projectiles, and with these 2 talents we will have +4 additional projectiles straight up from the talent tree, which is just massive, and you can ditch your GMP quite easily with that, with almost no investment at all. And we're of course taking Tailwind, which will give us speed. It will give us just overall speed damage through speed as well, through attack speed. So yeah, with our skill gems, let's see here, we're going for a lightning arrow. Ideally, it's just like, you can take lightning arrow if you don't really want to use Val version, but Val version is free and it gives you a bunch of single target damage. It's not even like just single target, it's just good in these cram-packed locations where there are enemy in one place, and it will be just hella good. Then we're taking for our Lightning Arrow Mirage Archer, which will be just a huge quality of life and damage Then stuff for our elemental damage, inspiration for lower costs, and damage and crit. Increased critical damage, which is just a big multiplier for us, and Trinity that will give us additional elemental resistance, penetration, and more damage, because we are dealing damage with all 3 elements, and Trinity will be procced constantly. So then for our additional 6th link, we have our ballista set up with lightning arrow. So it's ballista totem, which makes lightning arrow shoot through the ballistas instead of being shoot just by you. And you can summon a bunch of those ballistas in order to help you. Then we have added cold, ele damage, focused ballista, and we have as well our blink arrow in here. It's just like, yes, blink arrow, it's just your travel skill, and it shouldn't be linked with any of these things. Then we have our Mana Forge arrows with Frenzy and Power Charge on crits. Frenzy will generate us Frenzy charges. Mana Forge arrows will make it so Frenzy is automatically shot while you're just using your regular ability, and when Frenzy hits an enemy, you will get Frenzy charges, and with Power Charge on crit, you will generate Power Charges as well through the Frenzy just hitting your enemies. Berserk is the thing that will consume our rage that we're generating with time spent. With time being going on, and Berserk will give us just straight up very big, very heavy boost for the damage and the speed, and it's just a big juicy buff if you need it against some more tough opponents. Then with our marks, we have Sniper Mark on hit and Sniper Mark and Mark on hit, so your marks are gonna be used automatically. Frost Blink, it's just your alternative movement travel speed if your Blink Arrow is on cooldown, and Steel Skin as your main defensive ability that you will manually use or just put on your left mouse button as you want, as you're pleased. That's just your main defensive ability that will create this buffer of HP for you not to die in the moments where you need it. And then with our reservation stuff, we have Anger, Wrath, and Precision. With Enlighten here, it's level 3. So yes, we need as much mana reservation efficiency. That's why Enlighten is here, because we are still using our skills with mana, because we don't want life tap in all our links. It's possible to use life tap as well, but you will lose some damage, you will lose convenience, you will lose your gems, your slots for skills and for support gems. So yeah, that's why we're using as much mana reservation as possible. And Precision gives us accuracy and crit strike. Anger and Wrath are giving us just straight up flat damage. You can change Anger and Wrath for your Determination and Grace, which will give you more defenses, and especially if you don't have Headhunter, it's probably wise to do that. And if you're maybe not it all depends on your preferences and on your needs. If you don't have enough damage, or if you want more damage to straight up one-shot everything and not think about your defenses, then you want Anger and Wrath. If you want more defenses and you're still receiving some damage, you're still getting hit, then Grace and Determination will be better, and they are reserving the same amount of mana, so it would be quite an easy swap. Maybe not Determination, you can still, if you don't have enough mana reservation efficiency, you can get their Defiance banner instead of your Determination, because armor would be less of a defensive stat for you than evasion rating. You can get maybe some other defensives, but yeah, this is, or you can maybe get like some Herald if you want to have one defensive aura, and then you don't have enough mana reservation efficiency, and you can't put in Wrath or Anger or any other offensive auras. You can get some Heralds going on. So yeah, you understand here. It's all manageable. It's all depending on your own setup and stuff like that. Then with our items, we're going for very high elemental DPS bow with some part of our fizz damage converting as well. Fizz damage on bow is somewhat relevant, but not that much. Yeah, we just want as much early DPS on the bow as possible. We want chance to deal double damage as well. So as you can see here, we have focus. So for the moments where you need those juicy double damage moments, you will have your focus button. Some stats as well will help us with our omniscience and at least 8% critical strike chance. Spine bows are very good for that. It's very good crit strike base for bows. As much crit strike as possible, get there. It will help you. It will just multiply your damage. It's vital and important. And you want at some attack speed, but as you can see here, its base attack speed is enough, even like that. Then with our quiver, we're taking both attack, fire, and additional arrow, which is convenient and very good and just increases your clear massively, but you don't require it to have it. And you can swap your main link to have GMP and have less damage. It's all again manageable and dependable on your goals and what you're trying to achieve. Then some flat ally damage to attacks, some crit strike, crit multi, and just increases to damage with bows and elemental damage. That's what you're going for here. It's pure DPS, just like big DPS quiver increase. Then we have for our helmet, we have Vol's Vision that will give us increased maximum life if no equipment items are corrupted, and regeneration, 400 regeneration per second if we have no corrupted items, which is just massive. It will help us a bit with our resistances. As we can see here, it's enchanted for Berserk, having increased buff effect, and it has some armor, which will be even better if you would have had determination. Without it, it's just a bit. Yeah, with our unique chest piece, it's high risk ire. It gives us a bunch of flat elemental damage. It gives us some stats, some dexterity, which converts into omniscience. We have here 30% to suppress spell damage, just enormous amounts of evasion rating, and some shield duration, which is it's not the main point of this body armor. Then with our gloves, we have one of the core stuff. Core items for the build, Chaos Spirit. It converts your life regeneration into rage regeneration, and that works pretty well with Vol's Vision, because you don't really need that life regeneration. We already have all the flat just life recovery from our attacks. We already have our life leech. We already have our divine flask of divine life flask. You need this regeneration specifically for your Chaos Spirit to work. It will generate 4 rage per second instead, and it will give us some life, some resistances, but those are not our core interests in here. We need rage generation. It will give us a bunch of damage, and we can use Berserk with that, and that is just massive. Then with our boots, we're taking straight up just regular boots for movement speed, some armor, which is not even so important here, maximum life, cold resist, just resistances, life, and move speed. So crystallized omniscience we've already talked about. With our rings, of course, we're trying to have non-challenge skills have -7 to total mana cost, so that we can use them at least. And with our unreserved mana being 70, our cost being 12, you're gonna need to hit enemies in order to leech the mana back, and that's why we're striving for all the reduces of mana spent on your skills as possible, especially with these flat amounts. It's gonna help just a lot. We do have just enormous amounts of stats here. These two rings are one of the main reasons why we are able to use omniscience. It gives us like almost 190 raw stats. It gives us some chaos res and just regular res, and we have flat damage here as well, to increase to bolster our damage, we can get here maybe some life instead of one of these, but that doesn't really matter that much. So with belt we have Headhunter, which is not really required at all. It's it is a thing that you're sticking on top, and then you're just invulnerable god and you're farming all those delirious maps with ease. Without it though, you probably will strive for just high stat and high life, maybe with some elemental damage, percentage elemental damage with attack skills, maybe some flask effects increases belt, and you're probably gonna want to have a Stygian Wise. That way you can use one Abyssal Jewel additionally, which will give you even more damage. But stats are quite good, and they are quite necessary in here as well, just for us, in order for us to get enough Omniscience and to be cool and good with that. Then with our flasks, we're using Dying Sun here, that skills fire additional projectiles during effect, and we have increased area of effect, which is not really that important. So yeah, we're trying to get some additional projectiles here. It's not, again, it's not required. It's just more of a AoE coverage of your skills that will give you quality of life. Then we have Silver Flask that gives us Onslaught. If you want, you can get Onslaught on your on your boots. You will have less movement speed in general, but you will have bigger uptime of your Onslaught. But that again depends on how well can you get the Flask effect uptime anyways. So yeah, it all needs to be filled by you, how you are going through your maps, how often your flasks are up, because instead of increased duration, you can get here gets a flask charge when you're dealing a crit strikes, which will gonna generate you just a bunch of charges, and these flasks are gonna be up constantly. So that all depends again. Then we have Jade Flask, we have Granite Flask, and we have Quicksilver Flask. So yeah, one of for speed, two others for defenses. Again, these two flasks are gonna be way better for Grace and Determination instead of Wrath and Anger. That all depends on your setup still. Yeah, so this is just how it goes. When it comes to just like more when it comes to more budget versions of the gear, of course, High-Risk Ire is not needed for your build to work. Vol's Vision and Chaos Spirit, they're not as pricey as High-Risk Ire 6-link. They're not as pricey as Crystallized Omniscience, and of course Headhunter as well. So you probably want to just focus on Vols and Chaos Spirit first, get this rage generation mechanic going, and then focus on High-Risk and Omniscience, and probably Omniscience. Well, that all again depends on the prices themselves. So yeah, you can go with this build with only rare items, trying to get as much resistance stats that you need, life, flat damage, flat elemental damage to your attacks, attack speed, crit strike chance and multiplier, and have a very, very good elemental, just like elemental damage DPS bow is so important, and high base crit strike chance on your bow is so important. And with Crucible mechanic, it's as easy as ever to get way bigger crit strike chance with all the juicy nodes on the Crucible, like talent tree on the items. So yeah, that's gonna be your main points for the first time. That you can go for maybe taming. The taming, that's a unique ring that gives you just a bunch of elemental damage and percentage elemental damage increase and elemental resistances, and it's quite cheap. It's not as cheap on the start of the league, but then it goes up to like 10 or 15 or 20 chaos, and that's not that much. And they give you just a bunch of raw resist and damage, and you can put it in both slots. Then you will have some, like, a bit more problems with mana cost, but that again depends on your mana reservation efficiency and stuff like that. So yeah, you can just go with rare items and then bit by bit increase your gear and get all the pricey pieces in here. So yeah, all the pub pub of the build is gonna be in the, it's not gonna be in the description, it's gonna be in the pinned comment below. Thanks for watching, hope you're having a blast playing Crucible League. Yeah, if you want more content like this, then definitely subscribe to the channel. Goodbye.